Hello, guys. Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of the Foot Nose podcast. I'm your host, Bonisil Clemeza, and we'll be talking some Premier League football with you lots. I hope everyone is having a good weekend. I know I am. It's always helpful, obviously, when your team wins. I have been enjoying the football this weekend because, my team did win, and the teams that were preferable to not get wins didn't get wins. So, just putting my biases out there. Please like, hype, subscribe, and do all the beautiful things that podcasters ask of supporters, ask of fans, subscribers, all that good stuff. If you like what you hear, please share it. Please, yeah, promote the content, support the content. If you're enjoying it, I am a smaller channel and hoping to grow and open to feedback as well, especially when it's constructive. So, thank you so much for those of you who already tune in regularly and um, give me ideas on how I can do better as a content creator, as well as just to chat football. I am enjoying this at the moment, really getting into it. It's just hard, obviously, when the results are not the way you want them, but it's good to have a space that's public or a shared space to digest some of what we see. And today, I want to start with the games from today, and then I'll go backwards. So today is Sunday as I'm recording, and actually, I'm not going to do the game in any particular order, but I want to start with Manchester United. I guess that's what I wanted to do first because that's kind of top of mind for me at the moment. And I just want to say Manchester United are flying at the moment. They're winning shootouts, they're winning games that are, they went 3-2 again today. Against City, I think they definitely destroyed City, but with 35% of the ball, roughly thereabouts. Against Arsenal, I wouldn't say they were deserved winners, even though I think I'm biased in, obviously my support for Arsenal. I think they won the big moments. And so sometimes that's enough to win your football match. And I'm not going to say they didn't deserve to win, but I'm also going to say that I'm not going to say they did. I think that game ends 2-2 on most days, or sometimes Arsenal even wins it, right? I just think the key thing for Manchester United is they have game breakers. In Bruno Fernandes, they have one of the best in the game, at least in England, when it comes to running a game, destroying an opponent. And I want to actually talk a little bit about Bruno because, man, as much as you can hate on him or not appreciate his petulance and you know his approach to the game in terms of behavior and character, maybe even, right, like the way he is as a sportsman, I think he doesn't maybe pass that test. But man, oh man, does he pass the test of being a killer, of being the ultimate competitor, of being the guy who is clever, smarter than most people, especially when the ball is won by his team. He makes the right runs, he makes the right reads, he's deceptive, he's cunning, and he's ruthless in front of goal, like with his passing and with his finishing. And I think it is unfortunate that he went to Manchester United at the time that he did, because I think in a different time, Bruno wins a lot more with United, or if he joined, a different club, he could have done a lot more in terms of trophies in his prime years. And you may argue that he wasted them in Man United, but I think he's definitely been one of the consistent shining lights in that club across the variety of managers that he has had during his time there. And in this game, yes, he gets the cross for Casemiro's header to open the goal scoring for the game and for Manchester United. He also is basically very instrumental in creating the third goal. He had done a lot of other good things in between, but whenever there's a goal for Manchester United, Bruno Fernandes is never too far from the action. And it kind of takes me back to some things I used to say when Amorim was there earlier in the season and before, when Amorim would play him in a double pivot, like alongside Casemiro. I never really understood the coach's insistence on that, because I think it moved Bruno away from the very part of the field you want him in. You want Bruno working in the pockets behind the defensive midfielders of the opponent and in front of the center backs, in those little pockets, in those zone 14 areas, I think people call them in the tactical world. He is a very clever footballer, very, very talented, like the best of talents, attacking midfield talents out there. To this day, he still is, in my opinion. And I just want to sing his praises, man. Like, I don't think United are able to do the things offensively that they've been able to do in the last few games without him doing the things that he does. Yes, they get goals today from Casemiro, and then the second goal from Cunha, who also finished, the kind of finished. I mean, that to do what he did. I mean, the goal against Arsenal was great, and the finish today, kind of a sharpish, kind of acute-ish angle, hits the roof and goes in. Like he's that level of talent, Cunha. Problem with Cunha is, can he consistently do that? Bruno can. And Belmo starting last season showed that he can also consistently threaten. Cunha is now in his prime years. Hopefully he can be a consistent performer for them. Because if he can, the level of talent in that kid, Cunha, is dope. He's a very, very highly talented forward player. And I think I want to shout out their frontline players, because yes, United have been vulnerable, I would say. Like, they still open up quite a bit defensively, and Fulham were in this game. It was not an Old Trafford domination of Fulham. Fulham had moments, many, many moments in this game, and the difference, in my opinion, was the quality of attacker on both teams. The quality of Manchester United are working with is you're working with higher level talents, like the three guys who occupied some of the frontline positions today, right? Between Cunha and Sesko and Belmo, that's more than 200 million pounds of worth of spend just this last summer. Bruno was also not a cheap buy many years when they did buy him ago, right? Like, it was probably between 50 and 60 million pounds. And he's been way more than worth that, by the way. So that the difference is, yes, the ball lands at Chukwueze's feet, or Chris Smith Rowe's feet, or Harry Wilson, who's been good, by the way. They're not as good as the other guys as a collective, as the United guys. So I think Manchester United, yes, they get their Fergie time win, and Manchester United are going on vibes right now. They are vibing, like, yeah, you can call them Vibes FC at the moment. And I'm sure we will start to see what Michael Carrick likes to do as a coach in time, if he does get till the end of the season, which I think he will. And maybe he gets it beyond this summer. I don't know. But at the moment, I think United are benefiting from, people not knowing how they're going to play under this new coach. And they have a lot of players who can capitalize on uncertainty, who can capitalize in moments, especially now that they're feeling confident. You know, this really does remind, and not because Ollie is a legend of United as well now, Carrick being also a former United player slash legend. I'm not making this comparison between the two coaches because I actually think Carrick is a better tactical brain than Ollie, from what I've seen, even though Ollie has more experience. From what I saw in Carrick before he came to United, I don't think we've seen Carrick's coaching yet. I think we're seeing Carrick's man management. I think we're seeing Carrick's ability to kind of like go back to basics and try to solidify certain things. He's doing a number of different things here, like fixing people's confidence. You know, Sesko, Dorgu, Mainu. You know, players who were feeling in the outs and maybe like feeling doubted by the previous coach. They are now starting to become performers that United are accounting on in these last 2 to 3 games, and that's good. You know, Cunha comes in and makes contributions. So I want to just pick United up, even though I think there's a lot of shakiness in the way they're playing. They're very open, and yes, some of these 3-2 wins are going to be 3-2 losses because you can't win them all. But with the kind of weapons they have, why not go into shootouts with teams and just you know let your dogs out and let them go fighting and let them go running for you and live with the result. That way you don't die wondering. You don't die wondering. You live it all on the pitch and then live with the result. And the next game I want to talk about is so United 3, Fulham 2. I'm stopping that one there. Forest 1, Palace 1. This game was as I expected. Sean Dyche needs a win, but he's gonna play not to lose first, and then try to see if he can win the game. With few moments here and there. Forest did have some good moments in that first half, including an early goal by their captain Morgan Gibbs White. But then they, instead of conceding the goal, they should have just let the ball go in. But Nico Williams has a rush of blood to the head, and he uses his hand to stop the ball going in from a Lerma header. It was a corner for Palace. Lerma gets the ball and heads the ball, sorry, and it's traveling towards the goal. And Nico Williams, I don't know if he was thinking at all. I think just instinct took over, and he used his hand, and he was rightfully sent off. Palace gets the penalty. Ismail Assar scores to make it 1-1. Now, the second half, it's a different story. I think the first half was kind of even, maybe Forest shaded it in bits, in my view, because that kid from Brazil, um, Igor Jesus, he had some good moments in that first half, and he was playing well, even when down to 10 men. But Forest stuck it out and found a way to hold on for a draw in a game they were leading until the sending off. It would have been good to see how this would have played out with 11v11 from that 1-1. If, like, for example, Nico Williams doesn't stop the goal with the ball with his hand, it goes in, it's 1-1, and then you play it out. But we will never know because the young Welshman decided to do what he did, and probably Forest now are gonna have to at least be happy with the fact that they didn't lose that game playing 45 minutes of the game with 10 men. So they kind of have to live with that. And then another game with a red card is Aston Villa 0, Brentford 1. Now this was a weird game. Like, Brentford were actually playing well, and they've become a very good team on the ball. Brentford, Keith Andrews, man, like, to me, he's the main man here. Like, in the United game, Bruno was the main man. In this game, the main man is Keith Andrews for me, man. His coaching is just really impressing me, at least with results. But also, when I do watch Brentford, I'm seeing really good football patterns. I'm seeing some really good stuff on the ball, and then matched with some of the endeavor and the off the ball stuff that Brentford used to do anyway under the previous coach Thomas Frank. Dango Watara, great goal. He missed an earlier chance, 11v11. Shada plays him through, and Watara misses it. It's a bad miss. They could have gone 1-0 then. They go down, they go up 1-0. Sorry. They go up 1-0 minutes before after they lose their guy. Kevin Shadow, that was a dumb thing that he did. He 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 almost cost his team today, but I think he might cost them in the next few games because he's a very important player for them, and he goes for the ball, he gets flagged for offside, but on his way up, he kicks at Matty Cash's privates. He doesn't kick too hard, but he kicks enough for it to be, you know, seen as violent conduct because it was. That was unnecessary. Didn't need to do that. But Brentford will take the win away from home. At that point, I actually thought Aston Villa were going to win this game because I think not many teams will go to Villa Park and win, period. But not many teams will go to Villa Park, go down to 10 men, score the goal to go up, and still win the game. So Brentford, I wouldn't say they are lucky because they earned the win. To win with 10 men away from home for that long of a period, you're playing with 10 and you still find a way to keep a clean sheet. And like I'm not mad at that, but I think one of the games Brentford have next is Arsenal. I think if Shada is indeed out for 3 games, that's going to be a bummer for them. Like I think, let me see. So their next match is away to Newcastle. That's bad. You're missing one of your best players. They do have good players, but I think the problem for Brentford is you want all your best players around. You know, you just want your best players available. You don't want your best players not playing games because of red cards. Injury is one thing, but you don't want to miss your best players due to things like that. And I think their next game is Newcastle, and then after that, I think they travel to Arsenal. No, they did travel to Arsenal. I think Arsenal travels to them, which is a short trip because they're still in London. Yep, they host Arsenal on the 12th of February. And I don't know if there's a cup game in between, but if he misses 3 games, he's missing 2 very big games in the league. But Brentford have been finding answers, so maybe they'll be fine. I think Coyote is a threat for them with those throw-ins. Aston Villa missed Ollie Watkins, I would say. Their new striker in his return or his second debut for Aston Villa. Tammy Abrams thought he had equalized, but it wasn't to be because the ball had gone out much earlier in the build-up. When Leon Bailey thought he had kept it in to continue playing, but it was not to be. So Brentford, good team, getting exactly what they deserve. They're sitting right up there pretty with some of the big boys in the Premier League at the moment. And this has been one of the big stories of the season. I know I jokingly said that if Wolves were going to be able to stay up, Rob Edwards should be, manager of the year. But on a serious note, I think Keith Andrews' name should be at least an honorable mention, if not a proper winner for that. If they continue doing this, like what they're doing is ridiculous compared to what other teams have spent and what they're working with on budgets. The champions are starting to play like champions. They stomped on Newcastle yesterday. Newcastle had a good start to the game. Anthony Gordon was feeling, the fire in his belly, kicks Allison in a tackle, and the game starts to boil up and Newcastle takes the lead, like, late in that second half, mid to late second, I mean, sorry, mid to late first half. And then Ekitike just explodes for two quick fire goals before halftime, both with the outside of his right foot, different kinds of distances and different kinds of finishes. But this kid is something special, man. I was drooling over him, comparing him, saying he reminds me of Thierry Henry um, about a couple of months ago. I will also brag and say I've been early on this Liverpool party saying Liverpool are too good and too talented to not figure this out. And it looks like they are starting to figure it out. They still have vulnerabilities. Newcastle had chances in this game. Newcastle did ask some questions, and they had some help, right? Newcastle were without Joel Linton and Bruno Guimaraes in the squad, so they were not without any help, Liverpool, in this game. But 4-1 against Newcastle in any ground is a very, very, very respectable scoreline. Ibrahima Konate, who had, earlier we had learned that he had lost his father, gets himself a goal to make it 4-1. Florian Wirtz is starting to feel like one of the leaders in this Liverpool attack now. Ekitike has already established himself as that. I mean, from day one, it was just a matter of trying to see, how to integrate Isaac and the Isaac injury. Not that anybody wanted it to happen, but it's turning out well for Liverpool in terms of trying to integrate all of these new big signings, because now Ekitike plays regularly. Mo left a little bit. Ekitike and Wirtz started to catch up to what Ekitike was doing early on in the season, and the team is starting to gel, in the attacking phases. It's not consistent in terms of output, but they playing good football, Liverpool. And yes, they've conceded some goals here and there, but they've also been, seemingly to me, prioritizing being a better defensive unit. And with Van Dijk in the team, as long as you put good people with legs around him, he's going to be fine. And your team is going to be fine. And, he's one of the better leaders out there in football today. So Liverpool 4-1, deserved winners. Newcastle played well in parts, especially in those first, I don't know, 55, 60 minutes. They were in the game, Newcastle. But outside of Anthony Gordon, they were not much of a threat. I don't know what happened to Johan Wissa. Maybe he was injured as well, or I don't remember seeing him in the game. And yeah, fair play to Liverpool. Good win. Starting to look like champions. They have City coming to Anfield next. So, they'll be liking their chances. And City wiped the floor with them a little bit when they went to the Etihad in the middle of that spell of vulnerability for Liverpool. So they'll be feeling very, very good about themselves, and they would like their chances in that game. And City need a win because they dropped points today. So Liverpool 4, Newcastle 1. And then the other game was a lot of drama too, a lot of second half drama in this game. Was West Ham losing at Chelsea. Chelsea 3, West Ham 2. Chelsea had a very weird first half in that, like, they were not playing like the team that we've known them to be, control the ball and whatnot. West Ham finds themselves with a 2-0 win. Very fortuitous first goal through the captain, Jared Bowen. And then Crescencio Somerville scores a beautiful second goal to make it 2-0 West Ham. For halftime, the game is like, West Ham, at least they can, they can start dreaming here. Like, hey, we getting, a step closer to out of the relegation zone. Rosinia makes some changes, early changes too. And, João Pedro, Fofana, all the boys and Cucurella, they've been on the bench to start the game. They all come on to join the party. And Yeah, it was a 3-2 game that could have ended 3-2 for West Ham too, because West Ham could have scored with Todibo, who eventually gets sent off for a little scuffle between him and Joao Pedro. But Chelsea were deserved winners based on their performance in the second half. Pedro scores the first goal from a Fofana cross to substitute combining for the goal to make it 2-1. And then Cucurella, another substitute, scores the goal to make it 2-2. And then Enzo Fernandez, who's been on good form for Chelsea this season, especially with the goals, he's becoming Frank Lampard-esque at the moment. He's becoming the new Frank Lampard in this team, and he scores the winning goal. And you know, Chelsea played themselves into a win here, and you can't begrudge them that. I think the new coach is trying to give everybody a chance, but like a team they finished with, I think is their best team, and that's probably what they're going to roll with at Arsenal. Liam Rossinier now has won 6 out of his first 7 games, and feeling feeling good. Only loss was in the first leg of the Carabao Cup against Arsenal. So, and they won 3-2 as well at Napoli in the midweek. So Chelsea has been involved in a couple of 3-2 games. Quite emotional young team. It appears, and they also have a little bit of gnarliness about them. Chelsea, they got bite. Like they like a little um, ag in any game, and it seems like they thrive in the emotion. I don't think you want to kind of engage in that. Like, and that's how West Ham gets a player sent off. It's a Chelsea player that starts. I mean, Adama Traore didn't need to do to Cucurella what he did, but Cucurella is he's a pest. He's always annoying people and trying to stay in. But anyway, I digress. So Chelsea keep winning. They're kind of vibing out as well, kind of like Manchester United, and they got a lot of talented players. So, and they're gonna win a lot of football matches. If they keep staying positive and trying to do the things, keep doing the things that they need to do to win games, like, and which is to be aggressive, be the protagonist, figure it out. Arsenal with 4-0 winners away at Leeds. I did a whole separate part on this game. I think Arsenal is the team that's kind of like most complete in the Premier League at the moment. Problem with Arsenal is, unlike Chelsea and some of these other teams, Man United, I think they're playing too humble. I think they're playing within themselves, and I think this is the time they need to really do more of swaggering, a bit more like pep in your step kind of football. It's too humble. And I like humility and whatnot, but I like my football players with a bit more arrogance. And I think Arsenal needs to start doing that a little bit more now. Like start showing off, not show off, but like they need to believe that they are this good team that everybody else keeps saying. Every coach, I know coaches can throw a lot of, what's the English word I'm looking for? They throw a lot of superlatives, right? Best team in the world, this, that, and the other. Arsenal is not just about set pieces. I think Arsenal themselves sometimes play games as if they don't believe this about themselves, that they, if not the best team in the world, maybe one of them, like I think they need to start playing with a degree of arrogance that shows that they believe in this stuff that opposing managers say. And so when I listen to Daniel Farka at the end of the game and he's saying like, hey, Arsenal are this, that, and the third, and you need to watch out when you play for them. And then we try to deny them space here, and they find space over there, and we change formation, and then we create more space for them. Like all of this stuff that tacticals and people who are in the game involved. So it's a lot of good stuff off the ball, by the way. But I think on the ball, like we found maybe some things that can work here, being a bit more direct, and I think a bit more vertical, and I think moving the ball quickly through the phases is going to be helpful to that. I think if you're Arsenal, you're going to be facing a lot of teams in low blocks, or we're going to be in set defenses. So then don't take too many touches on the ball, like sometimes our captain tends to. Martin Odegaard and Saka sometimes can be guilty of this, and Timber. Too many Arsenal players are guilty of this, and our centre backs, and Declan Rice. Too many of our guys just really like to be on the ball and kind of like take their time on it, which is sometimes helpful. Patience is good, but you can't have a game that's all the time the same way. And I think the loss of Saka and then the replacement of Odegaard with Havertz kind of pushed us a bit further forward. We were playing a little bit further forward earlier, and Havertz gives Arsenal an interesting new target to hit. And so that was a really good game. I don't know. I want to see it again to see if this is going to be repeated. But I like the fact that Gyökeres was not isolated like he has been in some of the other games. When you push Havertz, because Havertz doesn't do the Odegaard thing and trying to play between the centre backs and then run with the ball and try to play 1-2s with everybody the whole time. Havertz calls for the ball, releases it early. We saw it in the goal he set up for Gyökeres in the Champions League. He's early with his decision making. He's early with his reads, and therefore creates room for other people. He's early with he's so quick with his thinking, and that helps. We need people who are going to be that quick and that fluent, in the way they help us move. And I think I would like to see this again, even if it means Odegaard plays in the two deeper areas, because now we don't have Mikel Merino. So maybe Odegaard can play in one of the two positions, where Rice and Zubimendi plays. Maybe we play with Odegaard in one of those two double pivot positions and keep Havertz further forward, because he's, if he's fit and he can play close to Gyökeres, maybe that's how we really unlock consistent goal output from Gyökeres, because then he doesn't have to fight against defenders by himself all the time. And then you take that and you play sometimes Eze on the left or sometimes Trossard on the left, but alternating the players, because we need something different in those central positions. And Gyökeres, he's a strong boy, but he is not a good target man, because the ball bounces off of him, and referees seem to allow defenders to foul him all the time. And with that, you're not going to get the whistle, and then the ball is coming back against you in transition. So I liked what I saw from Arsenal in this game, and I want to see more of it. I know that the first two goals were from set pieces, and Noni Madueke actually gets the credit now for the second goal. It's not an own goal anymore. So it's a first Premier League goal for him. He also has an assist for the Zubimendi goal. So like the good credit for Arsenal here is that the front line players that I've been worried about, and a lot of Arsenal players have been worried about in terms of goal contributions. In this game, Noni Madueke has a goal and an assist. Kai Havertz has an assist. Gyökeres has a goal. Martinelli comes on, has an assist. Gabriel Jesus replaces Gyökeres, comes on, has a goal. Martin Odegaard comes on to replace Havertz, has an assist. So, and we had, two goals from open play, good transition play, and I think it's gonna be a good season if we can continue to have good rotations up front. And maybe we should go more quintessential 4-2-3-1 slash 4-2-2, sorry, 4-4-2 or 4-4-1-1, which is what I think the formation yesterday could have been. It looked to me that Havertz was very, very close to the striker. And that to me allows you to have good combinations throughout the pitch. You have your two center backs that you can trust, right? In Saliba and Gabriel. You have your double pivot. It looked more double pivot yesterday than 4-3-3. It looked more 4-2-3-1 or like in the middle. It was like a nice little pair in the back, pair in the middle, and pair up top. Two guys working together with others joining, for the different phases of play. Nkapia had himself a good game. I'm happy that he's fit. Happy that Calafiori got minutes. So Arsenal's looking good. And the last game was Bournemouth 2, away, Wolves 0. Wolves losing again. it looks like Wolves are done. It looks like Wolves are done, and the decision by Rob Edwards to join them looks more and more questionable now, because it looks like the team he was coaching is going to possibly qualify automatically, gain promotion automatically to go to the Premier League. But sometimes people make decisions for themselves, obviously. And I think, like I said before, Rob Edwards probably has personal connections to Wolverhampton Wanderers. I think he might be a supporter of the club. So with that said, I think I'm going to end this one here. But Manchester City losing helps Arsenal. Manchester City, I didn't really watch the game because I thought they were going to win it. I saw score was 2-0 at the half, and I was like, yes, I'm right. And it seems like Tottenham were like, nah, not today, City. And I know Tottenham tends to get good results against them, but every once in a while, when Arsenal needs Tottenham to get a good result against City, turns out not to be a good day. So I was like, yep, I'm not getting invested in this game. So I didn't watch it, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. I'm happy with the score, but I'm going to end this one here. Thank you guys for the support, and for whatever country you watch from whatever country you listen from. I really appreciate you tuning in, and yeah, chatting and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys on the next one. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and peace.